Hey everybody, so we are continuing the trimming adventure. I was trimming a little bit ago and I decided, well, I'm going to trim the rest of the pots. So here we go. Any questions or anything, just feel free to put them in the chat. I'll try to get to them. So we're trimming a bunch of bowls that I made. Started yesterday. These bowls we're going to sell for like empty bowls project. I made 30, which is quite a lot for me, and basically 2 sittings yesterday. So here we go. Got my camera set up. Everything running. Everything looks good so far. I think I need some new clay here. I'm going to get some new scrap clay to hold this down. Gotta find me some new clay to hold that my pot down. Thought we had some clay over there, but hold my pottery down. Let's see here. Great. I'm glad that you were able to come back again and see Julie. Thank you. So these are the pots I made yesterday. So today you get to see me trim a little bit. All right, here we go. Trim, 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 trim. Got a bunch of pots over there. I put a fan on my other pot so that hopefully they can dry. It is so cold. It is like cold in my garage. So that's where my studio is here. And it's not the warmest day outside. I live here in Portland. So here we go. I'm gonna trim this away. All right, so I'm using a Sureform to trim this guy here. Should work out okay. Yeah, Sureform's just really good at whacking down the extra clay really fast. Then I'll switch over to one of these tools here to start really trimming out the foot and all that. There we go. If you have any questions about what I'm doing or anything, just put them in the chat. I'll kind of keep looking up at it every once in a while just to make sure that if you guys have put anything in there, any comments about what I'm doing or any of those things, right? Like, hey, how come you're doing that, John? And when we do ceramics, we do it this way. How come you're not trying that out? Or anything. I'm up for suggestions. If you see something, I'm up for any of that. Just put them in the chat. So these bowls are being made we'll sell them to help raise money for our food pantry on our campus so that it's a place where they give food out for students. Students can take boxes of food home to feed their families. So here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Trimming away. Trimming away. All right. So here we go. Trim the inside of the foot now. Like that. Go. Again. Trim the inside of the foot again. Here we go. So I trimmed about 15 of them, I think, and I trimmed through one. I probably have about 18 more to trim. So I trimmed the first half earlier today, and then I took about an hour break, kind of chilled. And now I'm trimming the last half of these. So hopefully these will turn out. I trimmed through the bottom of one only, which is some days I was hoping that I wouldn't trim through any, but I trimmed through one. And I think that was a good sign. Ooh, I'm getting thin there. I might trim through the bottom of this one. Goodness. Start off with a hole in one. That would be awesome. By trimming a hole in this one, that would be really showing off my mad trimming skills, I guess. So I felt it collapsing here as I was trimming. I felt this clay like oomph down right around here at the edge. So It might mean that it got a little thin there. We'll see. We'll find out here in a second when we flip it over. I stopped trimming there so that it wouldn't be, I wouldn't trim through. Use this little vertical tool and clean up the outside edge of that. Oh, so really nice. I love using these tools. There we go. That's looking pretty good. Make sure this is all rounded and happy. We'll find out if I trim. We'll find out if I trim through here, or if I made it too thin. Let's see. So it's a little. Oh, it's not too bad. It looks okay. I think what I did is maybe I felt it trim and I felt this area sink as I was trimming, but it didn't end up being so bad. It ends up looking okay. So I'm gonna use the Mount Hood stamp here and stamp that bottom in. Go. There we go. All right. So Mount Hood stamp is in. One done. There we go. Let's trim this guy next. So this time I'm actually going to look inside to see what I need to do. So it looks like I need to put a foot in about that wide. We'll do a mark there. All right. Here we go. You have any questions? Oh, Eastern Washington. Oh, way up by the border. Oh, you guys are even colder than we are. I love that area of the state up there. So what's the nearest town up there in Eastern Washington? Oh, I did not know. I was wondering if you had a chance to respond to me. I don't know what you're talking about an article. So did you email me that? I'm sure I'm interested in, yeah, I would be interested in being a part of an article or something. But I'm not really into LinkedIn. I don't really have any. I have a LinkedIn account, but I don't really check it that often. So I guess if that's where you were trying to contact me, um, I guess that. What kind of glazes are you going to use? So a lot of these glazes that we know what we'll do with these pots is I'll make a bunch of them, and then I'll let my students glaze these pots usually because they're usually super excited to do some glazing. So let me move this chat down. I want to have to do some maneuvering here on my computer. Where is that? I want to put this guy down here because it's a little bit hard for me to read all the way on there. So the glazes we use are cone 6 glazes for these guys. So um, that's what we'll probably use. So I'm moving this other one here. All right, there we go. So here I'm going to probably use cone 6 glazes for this because these cone 6, this is cone 6 clay. So the cone 6 glazes will probably be the best things to use for this. So that's what we'll probably use for this glaze, for this guy. So I'm a little worried that I made this a little bit too narrow. So I'm just going to go straight down here for this foot. Ooh. So when these clays are wet, that trimming tool, I don't like the way that trimming tool cuts into the clay. So we'll use this guy here. I like the way how these loop tools cut into the clay when the clay is a little bit. There we go. Doing okay. There's a little bit of bumpiness going on here, so we'll try to get rid of that. Then we'll trim the outside of this. So luckily this clay is a little bit wet, so this is really easy to trim this part here. Trim that up nice and round, make it look nice and beautiful and happy. Go again a little bit more. What's going on here? Ooh, is it thin? No. Okay, so I'm worried that I was getting too thin. This clay is a little bit soft for me to be trimming. I'd love it if it was just a little bit if it was a little bit drier, but it seems to be trimming okay, but it's just the way it's responding is a little bit like wet clay. It's just a little bit wet. All right. Trim the center of this away. Oh, great. Yeah, I would love to be part of that. So get a hold of me. You can email me. Yeah, I also have a website you can contact me through. Or you can look me up at my school. So I teach at Mount Hood Community College. That's another way you can figure out to get a hold of me. Email is always the best way to get in contact me. Or you can contact me through my website. So just go there and do that. And there's a contact me kind of point on that website, which that way you can get a hold of me. Those are the best ways to get a hold of me, and then I'll respond back to you. Yeah, thank you. It's lots of fun being. I really enjoy making these YouTube videos. It's a lot of fun. Even though I could just be trimming here, all without the cameras on, I figured it's more fun just to turn them on and record stuff while I'm doing this. Right? It's a lot of fun. So it's just more fun. So here I'm trimming up this foot to make it look like this here a little bit, and I'll trim here a little bit like that. And there we go. So it's starting to look a little better now, and then we'll trim this back like this, like that, and then we'll come back here, trim it like that. So I'm rounding off the foot like that. You see that? Rounding, rounding, rounding. So to create a nice, 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 happy foot. Oh, okay. That's great. Thank you for visiting the website too. Go. Oh yeah, you're welcome. This is part of the reason why I do this, right? Is because I love sharing. So I just love teaching, right? And so I figure this is just another way for us to get together and just, you know, try things out, you know? All right, so here we go. Go. So that's looking good. Oh, nope. There's a little bit of smudginess there that I wish I should have gotten rid of. So we'll trim that off. There we go. Now we're ready. I think that's good enough for a bowl. We'll find out here in a second when we flip it over. Looks okay, looks okay, looks okay. Then we'll stamp into the middle. Boy, I feel so much better after that break. Oh my goodness, I was getting really kind of wiped out from throwing and trimming there for a little bit. Stamping it, pushing my stamp in. There we go. There's a Mount Hood stamp, the symbol of the college. Let's do this one. Woohoo! So this is one that I kind of altered the rim a little bit on. This will be fun to trim. Sometimes these altered ones don't sit flat. Oh, it seems to be doing okay. There we go. Tap center, tap center. This looks like. So, Julie, what school do you go to? I'd like to know. Like, they must have a good ceramics program, I guess. If they gave you an assignment like that. There we go. Let's trim this one away. So, Sureform again, right? Because it's a fast way to trim. Right, to just reduce just the mass of clay that's there. There we go. Then we'll switch over. Because there isn't much clay there to trim off, right? Because I undercut it so aggressively, I can get through that first part pretty fast. And then we switch to this tool here, and I establish the outside of the foot. Just drill down, basically. Not really cutting so well. So I'm going to cut a little bit because it's flaring out. Like you can see how it's walking its way out. So I'm going to trim back in a little bit here. Tighten up that foot a little on the outside. And then we'll start pushing it back down like that. There we go. You see that? How it's starting to trim downward? Yeah. Ooh, that foot's getting a little tall. We'll trim back a little bit more like that. And then I'm going to round this bump off right there. So here we go. So trim that baby round, trim that baby round. I get the feeling like I don't need to trim off too much off the outside of this. Like that, maybe we'll go in a little bit narrower here. Oh, April, thank you. Oh, Spokane Community College. Oh, all right. That's awesome. It's fun to be a student and learning because all the world is like open to you. It's great. And social media. Wow. So that's the one thing that I'm not great at. Like, I mean, I know YouTube is social media, but I'm not really, I only do YouTube basically and some Facebook. I'm not really into the whole, I don't really do Instagram. I don't really do LinkedIn. I don't really understand what those are about. So I really only do Facebook and YouTube. I really wasn't into YouTube until I needed to start posting videos to start teaching my students. And that all started over COVID because during COVID, right, we weren't during the lockdown, we weren't allowed to bring students to campus. So I needed to figure out a way to teach students remotely. And so then that's how I started this YouTube channel, right? So that I could have lessons for students. Well, so we would teach them at home, right? And I would just record videos for them and then they would watch them at home and make pottery at home. They would then bring the pottery back to campus to be fired later, right? So this one, I think I'll undercut this foot. What I'm going to do here is put a notch under this foot. I've done this before. So I'm bringing this part of this tool and I'm undercutting the foot. And this can only, I mean, the easiest way to do this is using this tool here that has this square end here. So there we go. Yeah, so that's really good social media. Oh. Oh, wow. So definitely you're not a traditional student. Wow. Awesome. There we go. So you see how now that is undercut. I really love making that kind of foot. So I just brought that corner in right there and brought it in and trimmed that corner right there. And then that means I'm going to do the similar thing to this top side. I'm going to trim this part out of the top side by bringing this face in. Let's see if I can get it right. And using this face to trim this like this in like that. We'll do it so you guys can see it. There we go. See that? I love doing that. And then I'm going to round it. So both sides undercut, and then there's a trim there. And then I'll round this guy off by rolling this around like that. Oop, almost dropped it. There we go. And smooth it out really good as best I can. Add a little bit of water to this one. So there. Woohoo! Next one done. Oh yeah, there you go. So you see that it's just flared out a little, and so I love this counter angle when this comes in, and then there's that sharp like internal angle there that just looks so good, and then see how that is flaring outward right there. So to match that right there, it's so much fun and really easy if you have one of these tools, one of these types of tools, right? That has kind of that square end. Even easier if you have that squared end tool. Right, but I could do it with this one. This one's a little small, but they make one of these that's the size of this, and that works really good too. And then we stamp it with the stamp of the Mount Hood chop because I'm gonna give these to my clay club to sell to raise money for the food pantry on our campus. So I think I've said that like a bunch of times already, but hard to tell when people are coming on. Oh, that one's stamped really good. Look at that. Oh, it says, if you can't read those little letters there, it says Mount Hood. It says MHCC Clay Club underneath. So once that gets glazed, they won't be able to read that anyways, right? But it's mainly, we stamp it also so that there's tons of bowls, right, that are coming through the studio. And I stamp it so that we know which ones to thing. So this bowl, I made this rim super flat, right? So when I put this, I'm going to center it like normal. There's a little trick to these, but we're going to talk you through it. So now it's centered. When I put this clay down, I do not want to put the clay like over that and push down against the rim. Why is that? Because if I push down against the rim here, I can crack my rim. So what I want to do is put it off the edge. You see that how most of the clay is off the edge? And I want to make sure I'm pushing down away from the edge of the rim, right? You see that went around the edge. So then the clay will push up. If I have the clay on top of the rim like this and I push down here, I could crack my rim open there. So when you do this, make sure that you're doing it outside the edge. So here, I'll do it here too, so you guys can see it. So it's just up against it, and then I push down out here to keep the edge from happening there, from cracking, keep me from cracking the edge. And you can see that I'm able to do these bowls, trim them pretty quickly. It's because I made sure there wasn't too much clay down here when I was throwing them. Like this one has a lot of clay. But because of the rim went way out, it's harder for me to undercut that clay before I'm done. I start by using the Sureform because the Sureform just removes a lot of clay very evenly pretty quickly without me having to work too hard at it. See that? It does a pretty good job. All right, probably good enough. And then we'll switch over to my regular trimming tool and we'll just start trimming away here. So here and trim right there. I'm being pretty aggressive with this one, like really pushing pretty hard when I'm trimming here. I think I got it. I think I created enough. Now I'm going to start trimming down here. Turn. So if you have any other questions. So some awesome that we're donating those. I love the hints you have. So there's lots of, so about making, let's say, lots of bowls. So this is one of the reasons why I'm so fast at this is like I'm able to move pretty quickly is that I've made lots of bowls before, right? So I've tried to make in the past, right? One of the things I've tried to do was just give myself an assignment to just make as many bowls as I can in an hour or something, right? So the goal would be like, can I make 20 bowls in an hour, right? And then what kind of bowls will they look like, right? So in a way, if you're pushing yourself to make as many bowls as you can an hour, they won't be your best bowls, maybe, right? Because if you're trying to cut corners, I mean, trying to do them pretty quickly, right? Maybe you won't end up with the best things that you do, but you want them to be decent, right? So you want them to be a good enough quality. So you have to figure out what you need to do to move pretty quickly and making a bowl pretty fast, and then, but that's still good enough, right? So the top of this is a little bit uneven, so I'm spending some time trying to flatten it out, and I don't know why it's so uneven. Oh, it's that rim. I didn't think about it. So the rim might have been uneven. So I didn't think that the rim could have been uneven. I'm just spending some time flattening this out. Trying to make it look good, trying to make it look good. So pottery is something that you're always improving on as you're working, right? And then as you work, try different things, right? So try tall things, try cups, try how efficiently can you use a pound of clay? How big a cup can you make, right? And there's all sorts of different ways that you will work to become better. And even though I've been doing it now, I think I took my first class, ceramics class in 1989, right? Which is quite a while ago now. I'm still seeking to become better, right? I'm still trying to become a better potter. So even just doing this thing where I'm making these bowls, I'm actually getting better at it. One thing that's going on is that I haven't really thrown that much in the last in a couple of years. So this is probably the most wheel work that I've done in one weekend in a few years, right? So yeah. So for me, it's been pretty exciting, and I've actually kind of shocked at how I thought I'd be much worse at this, at making these pots. There we go. Next one done. This one may require some more cleanup. So This rim is a little bit messy here, so I'm going to sponge that off a little bit. What does that mean? I'm going to take my sponge, a damp sponge, and just kind of rub it around for a little bit because I know once this guy gets fired, it's going to be really hard and hard to make this rim smoother. And it isn't rough because of the clay that was on there. It wasn't rough because of that. It was just rough because it was rough when I took it off the wheel. That took care of most of that. Oh, gotta stamp it again. So use the Clay Club stamp again. There we go. Ooh, I left this one a little bit thicker, so it's a little bit of oomphiness. I could push in kind of deeper and harder this time. There we go. Clay Club stamp. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. All right. Next one. This one's a little one, so this should go pretty fast. This one's little. So how do we look at this? So let's look at this. You notice that usually before I start trimming a bowl, I'll look at it pretty carefully. So as an instructor, I always tell my students to do this: feel the bowl, feel the bowl. So what am I doing is I'm feeling the thickness with my finger. How thick is it here? How thick is it here? How thick is it here? So at some point, right, the thickness will start getting thicker. So right about here, it starts getting thicker from the inside to the outside. So I'll put a little fingernail mark right there. So that's where I need to start trimming a little bit. And then up in here, I need to trim a lot. Right. And then I'm going to probably put the foot like right about there. Right. Right there where that finger mark is. All right. So this one's a little bit stiffer. This piece of clay. There, I did a thing called tap centering. Tap centering is it's a really good skill to know. If you don't know how to do it and feel like you're ready, I don't know what that is. Agate where? I don't know what that is. So I guess I don't have a video. Can you explain more what that is? Candy, I'm interested in what that is. I don't think I do that. Is that a pottery thing? Like a ceramics thing? Because it sounds like a jewelry metalsmithing thing. So, yeah, cool that we got some people here from before. I'm going to try trimming this one a different way. Oh, God. Whoa, this tool is really catchy. I guess I better go back to the old way. Ugh. This one's a little bit stiffer. I'm gonna switch over to a slightly sharper tool. Oh, this tool's really sharp, baby. Whoa, look at that baby trim. I think this is other than what I trimmed earlier today, this is like the first time this tool's gotten out of the toolbox since I ran my tools, since I sharpened everything. Because this guy is sharp. I don't ever remember. The sharp tools are awesome. Oh, colored slip. I do use some underglazes for my work, and so we were doing some underglaze work for class. I do have some videos where we were doing some sgraffito and Mishima. I don't know if those videos are posted publicly though. Those might be just um, non-public videos that I just have for my students. So I don't do much of that though. I mean, my slips decoration and underglaze decoration technique is not the greatest. So I'm always nervous about posting anything that I'm doing there. There's so many really good people out there that really know their stuff about something happened here. Not quite round here. Something happened here. So let me just re-round this a little bit. There, I got it more round. There we go. Crawling of the glaze. No. Crawling of the glaze. Now, I think that that is. I have never heard of that before. Now, I think maybe if you burnished it, but we're a long ways from burnishing. Like, I mean, really polished it up. Then the glaze, then the clay will react slightly differently, but not just from like a few minutes of trimming. I don't think, from my experience, that's not a problem, right? Right. So, and the glaze and the clay gets a little bit, well, after Bisfire gets rough anyways, the clay does. So, I don't know if I've ever heard of glaze crawling because you burnish it too much. I think if you really burnish it, like not like on the wheel, but burnish it using like a rock where they really burnish the snot out of it, then you can maybe run into problems with. But just doing like what I'm doing here, like this amount is not, it's not really enough, right, to cause any problems. So here, done, 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 done. It's a little bit rough down here, so I guess I better do a little bit more trimming. There's a little bit of like trim marks down here. Man, this tool is too small. This tool is perfect. So this tool is really sharp. I got to remember that. So I got to really take it easy, not use too much pressure. So I'm just doing this right now to help smooth it off, right? I'm not just trying to get rid of some of those trim lines. In general, I do not polish this part of the bowl anyways, though. I just, but the part I do want to be smooth is this foot area. So I get that a little bit wet. If it's a little dry like it was this time, and then I'll take this rib and run it around here like that to make it really smooth. You see that? Make it really super smooth. There we go, like that. There, woohoo! And then, so because that's a part of the foot that's going to be exposed to the world, right? That won't get glazed. So if that's smooth, that helps it later to keep it from being rough when it is fired and then unglazed, right? And then I'll put my stamp on. There we go. Push that in, push that in, push that in, push it in. And it might depend on the glaze that the clay that you're using. If maybe if the clay body that you're using, if you burnish it, causes some problems. I don't know. So this technique I'm doing right now is called tap centering. So let's say it's way off and I just tap it to get it on center. I'm tapping it through the video screen, which is kind of hard. I wonder if there's a slight delay there or something. All right, it's hard to do video. We have to look down and do it. Oh my goodness, having problems with this one. There we go. Put the clay down. Yeah, so you can burnish to smooth out, especially more groggy clay. This clay is pretty smooth. It's a B mix type of clay with a B mix with some super fine grog or sand. So it doesn't really, nothing really comes up. It's not too coarse. So here we'll take a close look at the one I just did. Let's go this way. So if you see here, it's not that coarse really. You see that? A little bit, right? It's not too bad, right? So it's actually okay. There's a little bit of stuff that popped out because this is actually our reclaim clay, not our new clay. So our reclaim clay has some other clays in it that have some grog and other stuff in it. So this clay is a little bit coarser than what we would normally get. So here we go. Trim, trim, trim. Oh. Yes, the marbling of the porcelain. Oh, that is so beautiful with colored clays. Oh, that is such a thing, right? That's so beautiful. I have one student that's doing it is taking porcelain and then adding mason stains to it, and then she's cutting them up into blocks and then making them into slabs. So she has all these nice, beautiful slabs that have all these colored inlay clay designs. It looks so good. And she is getting some cracking at some of the joints, right, where the mason stains come together, where the different colored clays come together. So that's pretty fun. Let me lower my mic down a little. There we go. So that I just want to get you. There we go. That should get you a slightly better audio. There. So trimming, 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 trimming. So there we go. Look at that. Now inside foot. Start this guy here. So my first ceramics class I took at University of Puget Sound, and I owe those guys a lot. Yes, I've seen that before where you take it and you wedge it and throw. So yes, it looks so good. And you can get the swirl effect and the marble effect if you want to, and lots of things. Yeah, so the person that's doing it at my college she's not really a thrower, she's more of a hand builder. So she's using a similar thing, a similar technique, except she's hand building it. So geez. Louise. So yeah, it's lots of fun and it looks so good. The only thing is it's so much pressure because if you mess it up, what do you do with your mess ups, right? I think this deserves to get undercut too. So we're gonna do the undercut move on this guy where I'm gonna take the blade here and just stick it in and undercut. It just feels like it needs to be like it can be an undercut foot. I have a flaring foot. Look at that. So there we go. Slowly getting there. It's so much fun. So easy to do. There we go. I'm going to flip it around. Just make sure it's nice and smooth here. I'm just trimming this right here just to get it so it's a nice continuous curve. And I'll come in here and I'll tack this part of this foot here with the tool. We'll zoom in way in, see if we can get a good shot of that. And then we'll trim it with this side here. I'll try to trim it in a way that you guys can see it. You guys see it better if I trim it from over here. We'll try it this way. So I'm way out of proportion here, but I want to trim it so way you guys can see me trimming it. Oh, that didn't work because the camera was focusing on the wrong thing. And we'll try over here then. There we go. So I trimmed counter curve to that. Oh, so now that I see this edge here just seems a little flat. Like this is not quite domed enough. So I need to trim some more clay off of this just so that this curve coming up into here matches what's happening in here. So I need to trim more from the outside of this inside foot area. So I'm going to use this part of the tool and kind of dive it down. Let's back this away a little bit. There we go. So you guys can see it. So here like this and just trim more from the outside there and to there. Oh, that looks so much better. So then when you zoom back in, you could see how that curve now makes more sense. This comes up and then continues across the middle and then back down again. Some use colored slips in plaster mold. Yes, correct. Yes, and they can get a really beautiful effect that way. And then some people put the slip in layers and then they carve through, right? So then they could have like an outer shell of color that's like white, and then they put different layers in, right? And then they'll carve through the layers and to reveal the different things. Oh, those look so beautiful. So here I just added a little bit of water on my finger. I'm just using some time and spin motion. I had a red rib here that I could also then. Where did my towel go? I used to have a towel here. Just wipe it off there. So now I'm going to try it with the red rib. These Michael Shell ribs are incredibly awesome to use. Look at that. Awesome possum. Done. There, and then there's the bowl. This is like kind of like a rice bowl, eh? Right? That actually, see how nice that it's gonna fit in the hand. Really nice. All right, so then we'll stamp this one. So it has the Mount Hood sign on it. There we go. Looking really good. we go. Mount Hood. Woohoo! Mount Hood. All right. I need to get my other bat full of bowls. I'll be right back. Those are all done. This one still needs to be done. So I'll bring it over. This one is done. That's undone. Let's see. How many left? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 more to trim today. 13 more, 13 more. Whoop, 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 whoop. 13 more, 13 more. 13 more, 13 more. Go. This one feels a little bit hard. Yeah, so that's something, Candy, you can ask your your clay supplier about the 1612 stain. We use the 1660. Sorry, the 6600, I think, or is it the 600? I can't remember. And that seems to do okay, but it does go blue as well. So there we go. Making pottery. Making pottery. Making pottery. Go. Trim, trim, trim. So this is already pretty narrow, so I'm not going to probably trim too much off the outside because I'm worried that if I trim too much off here, I won't have enough for the foot. So that's about it for that. We're just going to dive straight down because I really undercutted this one. All right, so that's not working. We're going to switch to this tool here. This tool here to trim this. There we go. Good. So it turns the black mason stain is turning blue because it has cobalt in it when you're using it. So so as you dilute it, it's using a lot of cobalt to keep it from that's what makes it, so they use cobalt in it to make it blue, and blue's darker than not blue, right? Than white or whatever. And then they add other colorants in to make it black. So you might want to try switching to a slightly different one, and or increase the amount of mason stain you're putting into whatever that keeps turning blue. Right? You just need to up it, maybe the percentage. So that makes sense. So that might help you because as your mason stain dilutes, it will turn blue sometimes. Correct. So yeah, they do make black stains that have a higher, that instead of using as much blue, they use more like iron oxide or something, and that might give you a slightly different color. I don't know if that makes sense. That's something also you can talk to the mason stain people that they're pretty good. They have some technical people, right, that you can talk to, some support people, because they want to solve your problems, and that's why they have different types of blacks that you can talk to them and they'll help solve your problem. And you can tell them what you're using it for and all that, and they can give you some assistance because a lot of different people use them. So whatever problems you're having, usually somebody's had those problems before. So it's right. So it's easy to talk to them. They're great. They have really good support. Just call them up or email and tell them what's going on. They'll give you, they kind of say, oh yeah, use this mason stain or increase your percentage or something. I think mason stain, I mean, everything's gotten way more expensive. I think the clay that we're buying has really gone up, right? I guess I'm undercutting this one a little bit. I'm not going to be so dramatic with this one. Just a little bit there. And then that means I'm going to flare cut this one out a little bit here too. There we go. Aha. Then round this off. Round this off. I kind of put a line there. So one thing I did here is I trimmed a line here by accident because I think this bowl flares out a little bit, and so I caught the edge. So my trimming tool can't get down there because these blobs are blocking. So I'm going to make 3 really small blobs, like really small, narrow ones, like really thin ones to hold this down. So I can get my trimming tool back down there and smooth this line out because that line there is going to drive me banana. Oh, man, I just uncentered it. All right, got to recenter. So this is where tap centering comes in really handy, because it allows me to recenter it very quickly. Even if I knock it off again, then here we go. There we go. Yeah. Oh, that's one of my friends are on thing. Yay. So we're just trimming away, trimming. So what I put it back down here for is I have this crazy little line here that I want to get rid of. This line, I trim this line on here. That's going to drive me nuts later. And because I was using one of these tools to trim, that it came down and this corner of this tool nicked this part of this rim as it went around. So I want to maybe use the round end of this tool here to help round off that part right there. I think. There we go. Kind of got it. And then I'm going to use a sponge and wet it down and see if that will take care of it. Kind of help smooth it out. Now I started wetting it down. Might as well do the whole thing, I guess. Use it on the foot too here. Make it all beautiful. So Ruth, hi Ruth. Thank you for watching. Woohoo! We're making pots. We're making pots. All right. Now we'll take that away. There we go. We're going to put the stamp on. All that stuff, I'll knock off all that much later. The trimming scraps I got on there. We'll stamp that baby on. There we go. Mount Hood Community College, where I work. Woohoo! All right, next one. Ooh, that one's still a little wet. This one feels good. Good candidate. We need to get these guys back in action. Oh, so one of my friends is on Facebook saying hi. Hi, Ruth. Hi from Portland. Portland, Oregon. That's where I am. I hope Paducah's awesome. Is it cold out in Paducah? Paducah's where I used to live before I moved to Portland. It was an awesome place. It's an awesome place. Paducah, Kentucky. Hot school there. There we go. Ooh, that's way out of focus. Let's back this away now because I remember, why is it so close? It's close because I showed you the foot. There we go. So now we'll trim. Make it look good. There we go. Trimmy, trim. There we go. Then I'll come back with this guy. Oh, looks like there's a formula. Is that for... Ooh, so, yep, it must make a black because the manganese dioxide will make a black. Since there's no cobalt in that formula, it might not go blue. Right? Because that's using black iron. Now, they use manganese as a really good to make things black. Just watch out because that's pretty toxic stuff. Manganese dioxide. So that is EPK 40, custard 25, flint 20, ball clay 10, talc 9. And then black iron is the colorant, is 1 colorant. It's 6, which is some, but not horribly a lot. And then the manganese 4 is what will really make it black. So the black iron oxide will make it, the black iron oxide will make it kind of dark brownish, pretty brown, dark. And then the manganese will just kick it all the way over to black. So try that formula out. And as like anything, right, when you're trying out new, only mix up a small amount, right? And be cautious with the manganese dioxide, because that is toxic stuff. So be careful with when you're using it as well as mixing. Be careful, like anything, be careful when it's airborne, right? Don't make, when it's in powder form, wear a mask and all that when you're mixing it up. Those are all like basic things. If you know that already, you don't have to listen to me because you know that already. If you've had a glaze mixing class or whatever. All right, here we go. That was good to share a formula. Is that for a slip, I guess? Flint, ball, clay. Looks like a slip. But then that's Custer of 25. So it looks like it might be the Custer of 25. That's a lot for a slip. But it could be a slip. I'm trying to read oh. Yeah. It looks like a slip. All right, so almost done with this one, trimming it out. I'm going to leave these trim lines in there. See if I can, at least. And clean it up a little bit. We'll switch here. Do some more trimming. Clean up that foot. There we go. Clean up the outside of this foot. There we go. I guess we'll leave this as a straight foot. Just come in straight on it. Just looking at it really quickly, this level here seems lower than this level, so I'm going to trim the inside of this just a little bit more. Oh. That looks like there's some good tips going on in the chat in the Facebook one. Oh. So my friend says it's really warm in Paducah for this time of year. So it's colder here than it is in Paducah, huh? So that's in the other chat. So there are 2 chats going on, one in Facebook. So I'm streaming to my Facebook channel and streaming to my YouTube channel at the same time. So there's 2 chats going on. Yeah. It's like the black iron oxide. So what about the black iron? Black iron oxide isn't as bad, right? But consider everything toxic as far as toxicity, right? I just know that manganese is like on the level of not good things, right? So you just got to be careful when you're using it and limit your exposure before it's fired, right? So the black iron oxide is probably not as bad for you as that other stuff, but treat everything as toxic when you're handling and using them. So there, another stamp, looks good. This one has a little bit of chattering that I left behind. There. I'm just feeling my other ones, making sure, see if I have anything else. So, I have some underglazes that we mixed up. Maybe we'll post them and maybe I'll put those on my website, because we have a very good Cone 6 clear that we use. It's super stable, super nice, super beautiful, almost as good as stuff that you would buy. So maybe I'll post that on my website. Oh, so he says that he mixes the underglaze with the main glaze in a little container. that will add a little bit of flux to the deal so that it would be a little bit more sticky and it'll flux, it'll melt a little bit more when it gets fired. Yep, that's something good to do. So if you do that, if you mix a little bit of glaze with your underglaze, it may make it a little bit too melty for you to apply glaze on later, right over it, because then you might plug up, you might lose a porosity. So you have to kind of you'd have to play around with that idea. But everything is kind of mixable, right? Everything. Like even clay, if you look at what makes up clay, it's a lot of the same stuff that's in glazes, except for the colorants. It's just all at different proportions, right? So the clays that you use, right, just don't melt at the temperature, and then the glazes melt. But if you fire this a few hundred degrees hotter, it starts to melt. Yeah. All right, so my splash pan's starting to get full, so I'm trying to make some room here. Trying to make some noise. Yes, graffito is super beautiful. It is super awesome. I'm glad to see people exchanging information in chat. That's awesome. That's in the YouTube channel. So there we go. Trimming a little bit more. There we go. Trimming a little bit more off the outside. Trim a little bit more off the inside. Trim around, trim around, trim around. Just trying to trim. Now this clay is a little bit soft, so I can just do it with my finger. I don't have to add water when doing this part. Correct. So if you just use brown, if you don't use the manganese dioxide in the thing, you'll just get a brown. Right. So when you use cobalt in your black flip or underglaze or whatever, it turns it blue. The white turns blue, right? You get blue. And then you add the manganese dioxide to help make it black. And then when you're using a iron based one, like the formula that was posted in the chat, then you it turns it brown or dark brown, and then you're adding the manganese to make it black there. And I have seen formulas with both cobalt and iron in it as well. Right. Iron oxide is cheaper, so, but you don't need as much cobalt. That's the trade-off, right? Because cobalt is so powerful, such a powerful colorant, right? But the cobalt has an issue when you dilute it, or when you dilute your black a little bit, it starts turning blue. There's another one. Dun, 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 dun. All right, next one. Woohoo! All right, so center it up. Oh, so that's a good thing to know about the Cone 10. I like this. You guys are sharing information. There's some good stuff going on in the chat. Thank you, people, for sharing information. I completely believe in that sort of thing, right? That's my groove too. That's why I'm here. Oh yeah, so I have a friend named Wayne Bates. He's out of Paducah, Kentucky. You might want to check him out. He does some really good sgraffito as well. So he does a lot of carving through that stuff. There's so many good carvers and people doing sgraffito. I only do it a little bit, right? I think I decided I don't like that tool today. We're going for this. I think Wayne is out of Murray, Kentucky. So that's like the next town over. So Cone 6, that formula may work at Cone 6 as well. You can try it out. But there are cone 6 like underglazes that you can use. So all you need is so the colorants should work a lot the same for that. So you just need to find a cone 6 base to use. And then you can start with the iron oxide, the black iron oxide, and the manganese dioxide as the amount to start with and see what you get. Or you could just buy it, right? So there's a reason why we buy some of our underglazes and glazes and stuff, because those people that design those glazes just do such a good job. They have glaze engineers, right, helping them design the glazes, and they work really hard and they test all the different variations of it, like adding 1% or 0.5% more of this, and they know about how the chemicals and the minerals are interacting at the temperature, so they know how to adjust it to make it work perfectly. So yeah, there's a reason why those underglazes and those glazes really work really well, because they just engineer the snot out of them, right? They just keep testing and testing. So, but in general, they have access, those people, to the same things that we do when we go to the clay store, the same chemicals, right? So EPK and Custer, Feldspar, and Flint. So one clue that that's a cone 10 recipe is that it uses custard, right? So that's in general, that's used a lot in cone 10 recipes, right? The other stuff is used in other things, but just in general, looking at it, it looks like a cone 10 recipe, cone 10 underglaze. Or cone 10 slip, sorry. So we made the transition during COVID. We made the transition to making our own underglazes because we wanted some flexibility. Because I wanted flexibility when students were glazing or decorating, that they could decorate either when they were either greenware or after we fired. Because there's sometimes we would start them and they would have a whole bunch of stuff already bisque before we actually introduced the underglazes. So before we talked really about surface decoration, they already had a whole bunch of stuff. So I wanted to have them have underglaze, because on the underglazes that we have, they could decorate either on bisqueware or on greenware, which is good. Where I'm getting them confused, where the slips we had would only work on the greenware, like right now. Leather hard was best. So we transitioned away from our slips and transitioned to underglazes. And there are problems. There's some advantages, right, to glazing, to having slips, and there's some disadvantages to underglaze. But the major advantage of underglaze is that they can go on to greenware or bisqueware. So a student could do some decoration now when it's green, get it bisque fired, and then do more decoration later, or help repair some of the decoration with underglaze. Right? The kind of the disadvantage of underglaze is sometimes they don't stick great, right? Meaning, like, if you misapply them, really gob it on or something, they don't adhere where onto bisqueware as really greatly. They do okay, but on greenware, man, they stick like nobody's business. Also, you got to watch your thickness more with underglazes. So that's something that we found with underglazes. You can't like apply them like slip, where you can just gob them on like frosting. Where underglazes are a little bit more sensitive to being too thick. At least the ones that we've been using. So Julie, if you email me, you can email me from my website, contact me. I have some underglaze recipes that you can try out. So I can get those to you. And we have a whole slew of colors. And I think I can't remember if we're using but our underglaze does turn blue, because I think we are using a cobalt-based colorant system in our underglaze. So you can contact me through my website and I'll get that to you. right? And so it's all for cone 6, and it's for this clay body right here. It's a cone 6 like B mix type clay body. So it should work on any other stoneware. We tested it a little bit on porcelain. It did okay. I mean, it was fine. And then on our cone 10, it didn't work great on cone 10 because just that clay was too different, and the colors weren't as good. But the color was okay for cone 6. For the black, we just buy the Amico black. Oh yeah. I have never done that with my students, doing the transfer. So, it's never something, it's one of those things that I never got around to really getting the hang of. So, boy, this clay is just a little bit too wet to be trimming. It's really sticking back down. I'm going to switch to the smaller tool, see if I can get this. Oh, it is so wet in the middle there. I mean, that clay is like wedgeable almost coming out. I'm just gonna, whoa, it really is. So this is the clay, right, that just came off of there. Look at that. It is like, I could actually almost throw that again. Like, it's pinch potable. My goodness. So it really should wait for a little bit, but I'm just being a little bit impatient, and we're just gonna see if we can make this work. You look at how it's coming out of there, right? It's still wedgeable. Well, just have a light touch, I guess. It's kind of not really trimming. It's more like I'm also like pushing the clay around too. It's like moving around. So all you guys know this, if you trim when it thinks something's too wet. Well, we're going to go for an undercut foot here too. Bam. Why not? Go for it, John. Oh, good. Yes. Oh. So you just got to make sure your mason stains are body stains for when you mix it in with the clay, because some mason stains don't really only are designed to use with glazes, right? So there's a difference there between the clays that are the mason stains that are designed to be used with in glazes versus some can be used both ways. Some can be used within clay bodies. There are some extra steps. We really go to town. We do the it's like this antifreeze stuff. We mix this antifreeze. It's not like the antifreeze that goes in cars. It's like this special kind of edible antifreeze. I forgot what it was called. Some of you guys might remember. We just ordered like a bunch of it all at once, and we mix that in with the underglaze to make them paintable. But use CMC and this weird antifreeze stuff to make it really paintable. So it really paints on really well. Like, you ever notice that the mason stains or the underglazes that you get from the store really paint really well? It's because they have some additives in there. Where the glazes that you make at your studio don't paint really well a lot of times, it's because they don't have that special additive. So we add this special stuff in there to make the underglazes more paintable. All right. So that one. Next one. Yeah, so a lot of Julie, the stuff that we have is all for cone 6 for this. So the formula should translate over to your clays really nicely, because this is basically a cone 6 reclaim. We use basically cone 6 B mix, essentially. Yeah, so it should work great. And the colors are okay. I would still say that when push comes to shove, the Amico and Mako underglazes are slightly better, because I think they just spent more time researching them, right? So, but ours are way cheaper, right? If you make it at home, it's way cheaper. And they do okay. That's really fun discussion about that. Yeah, so luckily at my studio, like 80% of the clay is this one type of clay, right? Because all the beginners start with basically this B mix, and then it has a little bit of grog in it, or fine tooth, so it's a little bit nice, and it isn't really gritty, because that's one thing we found with some of our beginning students. If we used to use a much more hardier stoneware, which had much more bigger particles and grit in it, and they were just not enjoying themselves. So during COVID, we switched to this clay, which is a B mix type. It's called Christy Lombard. She's a potter here in Oregon, and then it's mixed up by our local clay store called Georgie's. So it's basically like a B mix, has a little bit of grog or fine grog or something in it. And so it just throws us a little bit nicer as far as not being as gummy as regular B mix. And it has a little bit more of a robustness. So it has a little bit more flexibility as far as what you can do with it. But the drawback, has a little bit of tooth, right? Which I don't mind. And the other drawback is it's still, in its heart, it's still basically B mix. So it's not great for like making really big things like tall pots, big, and it's not the best stuff for making like big plates or something, right? Anything bigger, it just isn't robust enough. So I think they might make a version with a little bit more grog in it or something that probably would be a little bit better for making bigger stuff. But overall, this is a really great clay. I really love it. I've been using a lot every day at school for teaching. It's really good, and the price is reasonable, and it's from our local clay company. Oh yeah, so you can get this from Georgie's. I like it. But their G mix, and they have a G mix with sand or grog, is about the same, right? It's just that this is the clay. Christy Lombard came and did a workshop at our college, and she said, "Oh, I want to use this clay," because that was the clay she was familiar with. So as part of the workshop, we bought a bunch of the clay so that we would all be using the same clay during the workshop. And I was like, dude, this clay is really good. So we just started buying it. And so now basically all our beginners are using this clay. And then when I was formulating the underglazes and our clear during COVID time, we had a semester with no ceramics. And then I had to figure out a way to move ceramics online. So during that time, I said, we're going to make a switch over to Cone 6. So that's when we started buying this clay. That's when I made up a bunch of mason stains. And now we have a bunch of not mason stains, underglazes, sorry. And then we have a bunch of Cone 6 glazes that we use too. So this one has a problem here too, which I need to fix. So I'm going to trim the bulk of it first and then come back and trim that, I guess. Oh, I didn't center it. So Georgie's is our local clay shop here in Portland, Oregon. They have another shop in Eugene. So those are our local clay suppliers here in like west Oregon, I guess. So that's the name of the clay shop here. So you can look at if you have a clay, you probably hopefully it's nice to have a clay supplier, and that's just who we use here. Really nice. They're a really good outfit. They deliver clay right to our thing, right to our door, to the campus, right? It's really great. It's always best to order from your local clay company, I think, right? Support them. So wherever, right? So this clay is a lot like Laguna B Mix, right? This is a little soft to be trimming today, but I got to get them trimmed today because I don't have time to trim them tomorrow or the next day. I got so many other things going on at work, right? So I got to trim them today. If I don't trim them today, they'll just sit under plastic for a week, and then nothing will happen. So you can look them up, the Georgie's Clay Company. They're here in town. So this is like a Laguna B Mix. So those of you that don't know what B Mix is, it's a It's a clay that's based a lot on ball clay. It has a lot of ball clay in it, so it's really plastic. It's really beautiful to work with. It kind of really pushes around really nicely, stretches really nicely. It's a beautiful clay. So for making regular size pots like this, it's a really nice clay to work with. And the drawback of B-Mix is it doesn't have very much like it's because of its has so much ball clay and it's really fine. It's kind of a finer grain, like it doesn't have much tooth to it. Part of the problem with it is it doesn't really like going super big, right? So you can't do a big. It's really hard to do like a 25-pound tall vase. It's a little bit more difficult to do that than normal than other stonewares. And yeah, but that's the price you pay. So then they make other versions of it that have a little bit of grog and other things in it, right? That they add to give it some body. Oh yeah. They have some, what is it? Trail mix, the dark trail mix at Georgie's. Is that the one you're talking about? That's a pretty good one. We bought a bag of that. We were also using the Oregon Brown from Clay Art Center. That's a good clay too to use. That it fires really nice dark at cone 6. Those are the two that I like personally. For the dark clay, dark cone 6 clay. They're really beautiful. It looks really like they look like a Hershey's chocolate bar kind of brown or a dark chocolate kind of brown. It's beautiful. There we go. Stamp that baby in. There we go. Another one stamped. Oh, I forgot. This has this blob here. I got to remove that blob. So, because I don't want that blob. That's a little bit too worrisome for me. I mean, normally, I don't know. I got to go back to the flat mode, make these flat coils to help stick that down. Maybe I'll go flat here. Just one. That's really small, but we'll try. All right. Almost there. Almost there. Okay. So I'm going to try to trim that away. Oh, did I even center this? It doesn't even feel like it's centered down there. All right, we got it, but now I made a line there. Why did I even try that? I should have just left it, I guess. Let the glaze take care of that. But it's just me being fussy. So here I'm just going to scrub at that trim line, I guess. See if I can get rid of it just by goodness. I'm going to recenter it and use a rib to get rid of that, I guess. Wet it down for, whoa, wet it down first. Sliding around all over the place. Man. All right, goodness. All right, good. Woo! All right, already stamped it. That one's done. Next one. So let's think about what else could we talk about? Oh, Ruth Baggett says hi. Oh, Jamie, yay. Hi, Jamie. Yeah, so that's really good. Yes, that dark chocolate clay is so good. It's so and even as a bare thing, right? It's kind of a shame to glaze it all over. So a lot of my students are using the darker clay and then leaving unglazed spots, right? And I think that that dark chocolate clay, right? Because there's a lot of us, or some of us, started off as cone 10 folks, right? And that reduced dark clay body is so alluring to us. So I think in a lot of ways that's the draw for me for that dark chocolate clay. The thing that really turns me off about that clay or any of those clays is the cleanup is just crazy, right? Because it has so much iron in it, I think, and so trying to clean up after you use it is a little nuts. And then Yes, we have a bunch of different colors that we like adding to that. Good suggestion. Here we go. All right, trimming the outside of the foot. So it feels weird, but I'm doing the same thing over and over, right? But I'm delineating the outside of the foot here, kind of getting it to where I want it to be. So I establish the foot depth, and then I'm going to trim this round here. So I'm going to start using the tool back and forth here to trim that little shelf off. So it's a lot, there's like a bunch of different steps to trimming, right? And I do kind of them all in order-ish. Right. And then sometimes I'll go back and revisit one of the steps. So you see now I'm trying to make that a unified curve, right? Coming up into there. To me, maybe this now looks a little shallow. Like I should have trimmed that just a little bit deeper. Yeah. So some of those glazes with those darker clays really, we have this one called Opal, which looks really good on the darker clays. It's amazing on darker clay. For some reason, it's so weird. It just seems brighter on the darker clay. And it has rutile in it. So rutile is kind of one of the magic glaze colorants that can do lots of beautiful different things. This clay is a little wet still too. Here we go. So my splash pan's starting to get full of clay. I'm gonna see if I can push more underneath there. Right? Trying to not empty it out. See if I can just jam some more under. There's space under there. It worked. I hear my wing nuts whipping clay around underneath there. Here we go. Oh yeah, so Mac 10. Yeah, I know some people that love Mac 10. That's a good clay body as well. Yeah, so easy for students to use, correct. That's what you want, is kind of a nice forgiving clay body that's not yeah, that gives students success, right? Pretty quickly. So I haven't used much Mac 10. I don't remember actually what it's even like anymore. Is that a Cone 10 somewhere? Mac 10? I guess that it would be. Oh yeah. Yeah, so definitely the transparency glazes don't work so well on the darker clays. I think Mac 10 is a Cone 10, right? Is that why that's why it's called Mac 10? I don't remember. I used it a little bit. So the issue for me is, especially the clays from around here, is I don't remember. I didn't really learn. I learned ceramics from up in at University of Puget Sound. So we used a lot of Clay Art Center glazes or clays. And then I moved away for a really long time. So then I ended up using a lot of, there was one called Flint Hills Clay Company. So we used a lot of their clays. They were kind of a smaller clay outfit. I need to get more of my pots to trim. I'll be right back. They're over there on the other side of the studio. I need to move these pots out of the way so I can have room for those pots. Okay, I'm back. So here, I think I got 5 more left to trim. Woohoo! And I've only trimmed through 1 so far. That's kind of almost a record for me. Oh, and these ones are almost perfect. I'm gonna go turn off my fan. I don't need my fan anymore to dry off my pots. All right, here we go. So last 5. This one you can kind of see that it got a little dry because that was the side facing towards the fan. Got dry, but it's dry enough to trim now. If I didn't sit it in front of the fan, it wouldn't be even close to dry enough to trim yet. But that does make this whole side, even though you can only tell that this part is drier, it does mean that this part's probably drier too. So when I trim this, it won't necessarily trim evenly. So drying it in front of a fan, I should have gotten up every once in a while and rotated it, but I didn't want to leave you guys sitting there without nothing to do or watch, so it's more fun. Oh, there's a question in the chat about that darker clay, what's the texture of that darker clay? I think it's the chocolate colored clay. I'll let them answer that. Oh yeah. So here we go, making more pottery. There we go. So we're just gonna trim this, do the same thing, use this tool. All right, here we go. Trim, trimmy, trim. So if you have any questions or anything, put them in the chat. There's the YouTube chat seems pretty active. People seem super excited. Yep. Good. So this is our reclaim clay. So whenever we use the dark cone 6 clays, we actually have a separate reclaim bucket that we put all the dark clays into, right? And that keeps this clay from getting kind of dark and brown-ish. And then what we do is when we get enough of the brown reclaim to really, then we just run a couple loads of brown reclaim till we use it all up. So we just maybe we do that once a year. That's a really good system. Otherwise, all this reclaim that I have here would just be all brown, basically. And we like it that we want kind of this reclaim clay to perform a little bit more and have the same color as the regular clay that we use in the studio. So we try not to mix them together. Because we give this clay away to our students right now. Right? So we don't charge for the clay, for the reclaim clay. So if they want to, they can just make stuff. Right? So, but most of the time the students want to use they buy the clay. So man, this is rough going here because this dry side is really slowing me down as far as trimming. I can feel it like pushing me back. All right, so here we go. Can't finish trimming this up a little bit. There we go. We'll try trimming down into here a little bit. There we go. And then we'll trim the inside of the foot. I think I'll switch over to this guy here. There we go. There we go. Yeah, so we've used a little bit of trail mix, and we use the trail mix dark or something like that as a clay at our studio every once in a while. And then we were using the Oregon Brown, which is a darker clay that is cone 6 made by oh my god, how come I can't remember? Clay Art Center out of Tacoma. On Pioneer Road or Pioneer something. Pioneer Road, I think. I know that because that's where we always used to get our clay from when I was at University of Puget Sound. Because they were a quick drive over, and then you can just come back with clay. There we go. Look at that trim. These tools are awesome. This is a tool made by Dolan. They're just a slightly better steel, and they trim really nice. And they really attack the foot the way how I like to really get in there. There we go. I'm almost there. I think I just need to trim a little bit more on this outside of this foot area. There we go. I'll round this foot off. There we go. There we go. a little bit of water that. Soften it up and use a rib on it for a second or two. Really make it look good. All right, since this side has a drier side, it's really dry there. So I'm going to make sure I stamp it on the wetter side. See if that will work. And I lost my stamp. There it is. Make sure I stamp it on the side that's a little bit wetter. There we go. Mount Hood Community College. 1. Use this one first. Think we'll make it. 4 more to go. So I promised my students that I'd make 30 cups to sell for this empty bowls thing. So I'm making 30, and so I'm expecting them to make a bunch too. So here we go. So hopefully now they make a bunch to sell. There we go. There we go. And then I'm going to trim. Switch it to this tool for some reason. It's working really good. Shoom. There we go. That's looking awesome. Oh, yeah. So fire clay is a little bit different kind of clay than regular clay. From what I understand, that it has I think they're talc based, aren't they? I did a little bit of research on it, thinking about like, whoa, maybe I want to do that. It's lots of liability, meaning like if you sell a pot, it can explode like on the stove. And then if there's lots of water or something in there or stew or something, right, that could go all over the place, right, onto the people. So a lot of clay companies won't even make fire clay, right, or sell fire clay because of that, because they're worried about some injury happening in the kitchen. At least that's what I was told. I could be propagating just a straight out myth. I don't know how many bowls will be made from this empty bowls, but I'm challenging them because if everyone makes 30, we'll have way a lot, right? And it's just a small campus event that we just have a table there on campus and we'll sell bowls, right? And then right, so it's not really an empty bowls. It's not really an empty bowls event, but we're kind of using it like that sort of thing to raise money for our food pantry on campus. So our food pantry on campus, just students can come by and grab food from out of there. So it's not like a formal empty bowls, but it's very much like an empty bowls, right? And then we'll just donate all the money we earn to the food pantry. Yeah, so that's pretty exciting. I mean, I'm really excited for that actually for this event. And then on campus on the day after finals week, we're gonna have it open, the ceramic studio open for anyone who wants to come down and make bowls for our empty bowls thing. There we go. Clean up, clean up, clean up. Make this beautiful. Make this beautiful. There we go. So I'm making 30. There we go. Not so bad. A little bit of waver there, but like chatter marks that I didn't remove. This one I could have trimmed off more off the bottom, but it seems okay. We'll just go with it. There we go. All right, only 2 more to trim. Woohoo! Getting there. I think I made more than 30. I think I had through 32, and I trimmed through 1, so I think I only have 31 now. Whew, a lot of trimming for me. So I hope that will have at least 100 bulls there for this campus event. That's my hope. I'm going to try trimming with this for a second. Just for starters. Nope. We're going to switch back to this. There we go. Oh, yay. Someone says they love my videos. Yay. Deborah, thank you for liking my videos. Yay. I love making the videos. They're lots of fun. I just don't have time to really make them because I have other things to do, like my teaching job, my regular teaching job. So here we go, diving down. So this clay is actually a little bit hard. We're going to switch over to the other trimming tool that does, this tool deals really well with this slightly harder clay. There we go, diving down, making outside of the foot. Then we'll trim this side here. Trim, 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 trim. We're going to switch over to this other tool for a second while we do this. This clay is actually a little bit too hard for this. For down here, as I drop down here. Oh, whoa. I was pushing a little bit too hard there, John. Woo. All right, we're back. Goodness, that was a little bit scary. Stay focused. I was pushing really hard because I was trying to rush myself, I guess. Trying to be like, I'm almost done. I'm almost there. I'm almost there. Lost my underwear. Then I pushed too hard and it came off. We've all had that happen to us, right? Take it easy, John. Take it easy. This clay is a little bit hard down here. Right here where I'm trimming is a little bit too hard because I dried it out a little bit too fast and it dried off a little bit unevenly. So now I got to make something out of this still. All right, I think I got it. All right, let's trim the inside. Bet you the inside part of this is pretty good. Oh yeah, let's switch views. I haven't switched views for a while. There we go. So weird. I can trim while watching myself on video. That is so weird. There we go. All right, so we'll switch over to the. Now they got that started. All right, here we go. Boom. Looking pretty good. Needs to come down a little bit more here on the outside. So I'm just going to be really aggressive. I'm getting a little bit worried that it might be getting too thin though, but this side I trimmed really low. So maybe this is a little bit thicker. I don't know what's going on here. Looks good. Okay, then I'm going to clean up the outside here. There we go. Then, yeah, I caught that bowl. That was almost heart attack level when that bowl flew off. So this foot's a little dry, so I need to add a little bit of water to it before I smooth it because it's a little bit hard. And then I can just go after it like this. Go after it like that. Yahoo. There, so that looks good. Bowl number 31, I think. Okay, 32, maybe this is 30. I can't remember. Too many bowls to keep count of. Stamparoo. I think this is the last one. let me take a quick look around. Those are all trimmed. Those are all trimmed. Oh no, two more. Two more to go. So that was number 29 maybe then. So I got one more hiding right here. That's it. Okay, good. I can make it. I'm going to make it. There we go. Oh, is fire clay recommended for pie plates? Oh, I think that baking, you can get away with plates, regular clay, because, I mean, yes, you could make it out of the flameware clay, but I think you could get away with making a pie plate out of regular clay. That's my undocumented opinion. Meaning, because baking, like I would be okay making like a lasagna dish out of regular clay, for example. Because anything that heats up kind of slowly and evenly is okay to make out of regular clay. So, what's an example of slowly and evenly? Like when you take a bowl and you have cold soup in it and you just microwave it, that's fine. Doesn't blow up, right? Because the soup and everything is all heating up all at the same time. So then it's not heating it unevenly, so the clay doesn't explode. When there's uneven heat source applied to the clay, that's when you run the problem. So like if you can't put a, a clay teapot directly on the stove because the flame or the heat source is only hitting the bottom, and then it heats the teapot up and then just the bottom, and then it explodes and then it's bad, right? But you can put a teapot of water, a clay teapot of water, and put it in the microwave and then microwave it, right? And then it'll be fine. So I think a oven should do fine because that is heating up everything together. So I would have no problem making a baking dish or a pie plate for someone or selling it out of regular clay. Now, there might be clays that are better, right, for it. I would use probably, I don't know if this clay, this B-Mixy type clay would be the best thing for a pie plate even to begin with, just for making, because of the structure of the clay isn't super robust, right? Because a pie plate is so wide that it doesn't have a lot of integrity, right? As far as strength, right? Where this bowl has a lot of strength because it's a curve that goes all the way around. So that's a really strong form and it's not that big, but a pie plate, right? What, 12 inches across or something, or close to that, 8 inches. So that's a lot of space. So, and this clay isn't the most robust clay as far as strength wise. It's a great clay to work with, right? And then, but I think a clay that has a little bit more tooth might do a little bit better for something that's, oh, now that's the only thing. If you're just making one or two, make it out of any clay you want, right? But if you were going to make a bunch of them, like I would think about it different as far as this clay goes. Like a B mix clay is not really in the B mix wheelhouse, right? I'm going to come back with this just for a second to clean this up. But it's possible and very doable. And right, as you're a better potter, I think I'm going to trim this down just a little bit more. It feels a little bit thick there. As you're a better potter, you can do more things, right? So you can break more rules, but I always like starting with a clay that's kind of more designed for what you're thinking about doing. So there's a clay called Big White that Clay Art Center sells. It's a Laguna brand. It is really great for throwing really big pots, right? 100-pound pots, no problem. Like as far as like it's just really robust and really groggy. But it's not great for throwing little cups. It's just really rough on the skin, right? It has so much grog and stuff. So, but you could get away with this clay, probably with pie plates, just fine. Man, those pie plates, if you're using that dark clay, I bet you that those pie plates would look awesome with the dark clay. All right, so this is the last one. I'm doing one last John Hasegawa. Forgot the. I wouldn't be shocked if I after I trim this one later tomorrow or something. I find 12 of them sitting on a shelf somewhere. So this will be the last one. All right, here we go. Last one. Huh. Trimming is not my favorite. Trimming is not my favorite either. But I make it do. I make it work somehow. Glazing by far is not my favorite. Right? Glazing is like negative for me. Where trimming I can do, I manage it and I do a good job. Glazing is something I'll make all the pots in the world and they'll just sit here and be unglazed. Right? So since these are just pots that I'm going to sell or we're going to sell for the soup kitchen or not the soup. I keep saying that for the food pantry that later that I'm just going to give these to my students to glaze, right? And I'll have them glaze them. They'll be excited because there's some of the students that aren't really great at making pots yet, right? So they can't make 30, right? Or whatever a number. They're really slow and they don't, they're kind of embarrassed because they don't look great, maybe as good as some of the others, but they can all glaze pretty good. So I'm just going to leave these pots out, and then my students will glaze them. They'll have lots of good fun with that. There we go. Almost there. Let's see here. Oh, there's an adapter? Oh, I don't know anything about that. I think using pots on the stove is a really scary idea, but I'm interested to hear about what this adapter is. That seems crazy. Because it has to be something that would distribute out the heat evenly across the surface to keep your pot from exploding. Right? That's why microwaves work, because microwave is heating up all the stuff inside more evenly. Where a stove, right, the bottom of the pot gets really hot really fast and the top of the pot is really cold. Right? That's what causes the problems there. Okay, so this is the last one. All right, so my goal is to not mess this up in life. I have one more pot. I want to go out a winner, right? Win, John. There we go. Looks okay. Oh, there's chatter there, John. I didn't see that. I guess I got to fix that. I don't want to go out like something that has lots of chatter. I got to So check that out. There's lots of chattery marks right on the edge there. Let's spin around. So just to show you. So you see that? There's some chatteriness there. We're going to have to get rid of that. I don't really want that. Either I get rid of that or I emphasize it more, and I think I'm just going to have to get rid of it. A lot of times just switching to a different trimming tool will help you get rid of that. So I wonder if it was this trimming tool. I'm going to lightly trim down around there. See if that gets rid of it. Oh, almost gone. Flip around, do it this way for a little bit. There we go. Flip around, do it this way. It's almost gone. Okay. Where's my sponge? Sponge of water. Just kind of sponge that smooth. I think that will take care of it. And then I'll sponge my foot smooth. Sponge my foot smooth. There we go. And then that looks pretty clean. There's a little bit of smutch that got, a little bit of blob of clay that got in right there. Peel these away. All right, so then this is my last one. We'll stamp it. Celebration! Made my 30 for the weekend. Woo! Look at that stamp, Mountain Hood Community College. There you go. Thanks everybody. That was fun for those of you that hang out for this time. That was really great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so I'll see you guys later.